Okay, here we go. You made it through, hopefully, you made it through the startup cost video and the sales forecast video, and now we're going on to the last one. And I'm going to try to make this one shorter than the sales forecast video. I know that was a little long, but I'm trying to explain this to as many folks as possible. And some of you understand this intuitively or had classes in it, and others it's a brand new concept. So I'm going to go through this, kind of walk through this the same way, but hopefully I'll be able to do it a little bit quicker. And let me go down again to just in the business plan write-up, the assignment write-up. I'm going to go all the way down here to section 7. And now we're here. Now we're at the income statement. So let me go back to the financial forecast Excel spreadsheet, and let me pop into the income statement tab in it. So hold on a second. Okay, here we are, and let's just take a second to get a kind of a broad look at it. Let me toggle over here. So here it is. And let's look at this broadly and try to understand what we're doing on a big picture before we get drilled down to the details. I think the income statement is, personally, I find it easier to understand than a balance sheet. The income statement is really just a very straightforward concept. It's just sales minus expenses. That's all it is. And so we categorize sales in a couple ways, but that's essentially what it is. And it's obvious. This is what we take in, this is what we spend, and what's left over is our profit. And so that's why this is also called a profit and loss statement. Sometimes you'll see that word, because sometimes we lose money, so unfortunately, but it's income statement or profit and loss statement. We're going to use a score template here. So I've taken this from score, and I'm just going to walk you through it. And so the first place we need to do is do the sales. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to spend a minute, just a few seconds, just to add in the figures that we came up with our sales forecast. I'm just going to put them here, top line figures, and then we'll go from there. So hold on a second. Okay, here we go. So what I did is I just put year one, we had $261,660. Year two, $300,948. Year three, $361,811. And notice this here. This will help us as we go through and work crunch through some numbers. But this is a percentage, so we're going by percent of sales. So $261,660 is $261,660 is 100%. It's 100% of itself. So that's obviously 100%. And our gross profit, we haven't subtracted any cost of goods sold. It's $261,660 and $261,660. So we know that's not true. It would be great if it was, but we haven't subtracted any costs yet. So let's work through that. So let's talk about this right here. Cost of goods sold, COGS, and this trips students up. And it's a little bit confusing, but what probably the most confusing thing about it is that not every business has COGS. COGS, cost of goods sold, is really reserved for those who manufacture something, produce something, buy something, a good, and sell it, that type of thing. A big company like Best Buy would have cost of goods sold. A company like Ford would have cost of goods sold, because those are, in Best Buy's case, it's because they're buying something and then reselling it. In Ford's case, it's because they're manufacturing something, they're acquiring inventory, and then they're selling it. But lots of companies don't do that. Service companies, you're not buying anything, because the service is your skills, your skill set, what you're doing. So service companies won't have cost of goods sold. So if you're doing some kind of service, you're an accountant, you're a marketing person, that type of thing, you typically will not have cost of goods sold. But a restaurant, in Karen's case, she is buying things. She's buying the raw material. She's buying the food. And so we need to put in, and then she's doing stuff to it and making it fancy and pretty and all that stuff, and then selling it. So she does have cost of goods sold. And now the trick is, what is it? Really, what's cost of goods sold? It's a big item here. And so what do you do? What do you put in? Well, let's just take a guess. What could it be? Let's say maybe it's $50,000. That's a lot of cash. And what do we come up with? Well, we come up with this figure over here, which will help us. And this is the figure of total sales. So this is $50,000 represents 19.11% of total sales. But lo and behold, this is actually low. I know that because in the industry that Karen's in, cost of goods sold typically are about 30 to 33%. So the food itself, buying the food before you do anything to it, that just getting it, getting the cost of goods sold ready, just purchasing it. That's typically about 30 to 33%. So I need to kind of jump this up until I get this figure over here to 30 to 33%. So maybe what happens when I put 80 in there? Oh, lo and behold, that kind of gets us close, and we could tweak it. I could go 83, whatever, something like that. I'll just leave that because that gets us in that range there, that 3% range that we're looking for oftentimes when we estimate. So this is a reasonable number, and reasonable gets us to gross profit. So the question you have now is this: how do I figure out what's reasonable? How do I figure this out? Because every industry is different. Well, you have to do a little research on the internet, and you can also go to the library and get some financials on this too. And these are just studies that occur that smart financial people do to figure out what these percents are here, what these industry percents are here. Because once we know this industry percent, we can just apply it to our sales to come up with what we think it is. So hold on a second. Let me bring you up some income statement studies sources, just some financial sources that can help you find that out. Hold on. Okay, here I am. I'm in a website here, and it's the RMA Annual Statement Studies. And what this is all about, you can just go to the website and you can kind of look through this. And this is where they do ratio analysis. One of the chapters in the text talks about ratio analysis. It's essentially what I just showed you. And so they can find out what in an industry, what are some of the default probabilities, measurements. What should be your cost of goods sold for this industry, that type of thing. You don't have to go this far for the assignment. You can usually find these general things out just by quickly searching the internet. And if 3 or 4 people sources say, yeah, for restaurant, fine dining industry is 30 to 33%, that's good enough for this. But some of you want to go deeper and want to get very precise, and you can use this. You can use this source. Word of caution, probably the best place to get this because this stuff's expensive. Libraries, county libraries, usually the bigger county libraries will have RMA books there, and you can go there and say, just go to the reference section, say I want the RMA, I want to do some annual statement studies, and they'll typically have it right there, and they'll give you a big thick book, and you can find that stuff out. But again, you don't have to take it that far for this assignment. Do a little quick research on the internet, but it's there if you need it. So just a source, just as an FYI. Okay, I'm back in this. I'm back here in the income statement. I'm just going to kind of crank through this. Now, salary, this is going to be a huge cost of goods sold. That's 30 to 33% typically, and this is a big one too. A lot of times this is in that 30% too, thereabouts. So I'm just going to put a similar figure there because I know typically that's what it is in the industry, something like that. You might be able to do this for less, but probably not that much less. And that's not even that much money. 80 grand for salaries. Maybe it's you and a couple part-time people generating sales of that much. You're not going to be able to afford that much in salary. And so it can't be much more than that. First year anyway, you're going to be losing some money. And typically restaurants lose money the first year because this figure right here oftentimes is more, and learning how to manage it with a lean staff, that type of thing. So I'm just gonna kind of run through here, put some numbers in here, and I'll be back in a second. We'll talk about it. Okay, let me show you what I've done here. And I want to really emphasize this is an iterative process. You just don't sit here and type stuff in and it works, and lo and behold you got it. It just doesn't work like that. It's like, okay, you kind of change numbers around, you try to figure out if it's accurate, you look at industry standards, you do your best. But usually the first time you plug numbers in here, it's not going to be reasonable, or there'll be flaws in your logic, and you might want to do this over a 2 or 3 day different day period. Maybe spend 15 minutes one day, half hour next, and finish it up at 10 or 15 the next day, just to kind of massage this stuff through your brain and see if it makes sense, and do some research along the way. So here's what we have. Let's begin again. We had 261, 660. $1,000. We did cost of goods, net 32%. We came up with this gross profit, and then we put this in. We said 80 grand for salaries, probably light, but we put that in off of supplies off in operations. It's just basically some supplies you need to run a restaurant. Advertising, and put including the websites, 5,000. Car, delivery, travel, some just general things. Rent, it's a big item. We put 35 grand because you're not going to buy this. Karen's not buying the building, but she needs to pay about 35 grand. And you do some research here. Where's this going to be? What does it cost? You can get an estimate of this by square footage, and how many square foot does she need for a restaurant like this? What's typical? Telephone, utilities, insurance. So I just plug some numbers in, and do some other things here. Here's what we came up with: total expenses of $157,000, and we had gross profit of 178. So it would take this 178, 660, and minus this 157,000, and we get this thing called net profit before taxes. But let's think through this. You know what? I don't know. I'll have to do some more. I'd have to do some more research, but I'm guessing that this is probably low. Let's crank this up to 90, because she's not going to be efficient at first. Maybe even 95. It's going to be a huge cost for her. So okay, and a website, $5,000, really? A professional website? Karen's Fine Dining, really? $5,000? Unlikely. Let's crank it up to 10, and so on and so forth. And is this the right actor? Maybe it's a little high, maybe it's a little low. We go other expenses. I don't know, just going to put stuff in. Maybe I'm just wrong somewhere. I probably am. I'm just going to crank this up. I'm not going to specify right now because I'm not quite sure, but there it goes. Now what do we get? Oh, yikes. All of a sudden, we win. Then the brackets mean we're losing. So net profit before taxes, we lost $3,340. And then this income taxes, I'm leaving it blank because this honestly is a little bit beyond the scope of the class. But typically income taxes, you take all of them and they go count. You're talking 25-30% of a business. You got your federal income tax. Where the effective rate of that is 9.8% thereabouts. You got your state income tax. I'm sorry, federal income tax usually 12 to 15%, and you got your state, depends on the state. And in Minnesota, it's close to 10%. And then you got Social Security taxes that you have to pay for your employees. So it gets very complicated, but you can count on anywhere from 25 to 35% of this goes here as an income tax. I'm leaving it blank. I just want you to. I don't want to get into a tax class here, but you don't have to pay taxes when you lose money. So there you go. There's nothing there. But heck, you lost money. Bad, but not so bad first year. Not bad. I mean, you could live with that for sure. That'd actually be a good first year if only losing that much. All this risk over here. So that's the logic. And I could bore you, but I've done that enough, right? I could bore you and go through each of these years, but figure it out. Go through it. Do the research, and that's essentially what you get. So by the time year 3 rolls around and you put your numbers in, we'll go over here. We'll move all the way over to year 3. Put your numbers in, and you should be, because your sales are way up here, right? But what happens? I mean, we could say, well, what salary? Well, Karen's gotten a lot smarter. Maybe it's only she's only has to increase her salary by maybe 110. Well, all of a sudden I know this percent went down. Look at 30%, the sales a little over, from 36% of sales. I already know going to be making more money. The rest of the things, holding constant on a proportion basis to sales. So, and that's how companies make money. They get smarter. They learn. They go through the learning curve. They get smarter. So fill this all out, and by the time you get to year 3, if you're not showing that you're making some money, why do it? Why do it? Now, maybe this is off. Maybe this sales forecast is off. Maybe, geez, by year three, maybe Karen's Fine Dining is selling $500,000. Cool. And then it changes everything. Or, you get smarter here and you're ordering better and all these different things here. You just get smarter. Uh, that's what happens, hopefully. And so you are showing a profit. So maybe when you get done with this whole thing here, the income statement, you realize you got to go back to the sales forecast and crank that up. Well, so be it. This is iterative. Go through the process, think through it. It's meant to be a tool that you work with through the whole time. It's not a one and done thing. So anyway, talked enough. You should get a sense of how to do this. And good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.